Welcome to episode 131 of the Corbett Report podcast, Bilderberg 2010. Now, as my more observant viewers and listeners out there will have noticed by now, this is another podcast episode that is being made available simultaneously as MP3 audio and as a video, available on youtube.com/Corbett Report, Vimeo, and other file sharing sites. So, to all of those who are watching today's episode, once again, I'd urge you to go to corbettreport.com in order to download the audio MP3 of today's podcast, as well as to find a documentation list with links to all of the documents cited in this podcast, and indeed in every episode of the Corbett Report. And for all of those, vice versa, who are listening to this, please go to youtube.com/Corbett Report or other file sharing sites where Corbett Report videos can be found in order to watch today's episode. Now, as I speak, it is the end of May 2010, and that can only mean one thing. It's that magical time of year where the annual Bilderberg confab is held, and the elite leaders of our world society are meeting behind closed doors to decide how best to run the world for yet another year. And I realize, if only from looking at the stats of corbettreport.com, as well as of many other sources of information, that this information is exploding all over the place, and we are getting new listeners and new viewers every single day, let alone every single month. So I know I have many, many more listeners and viewers now than I did even 1 year ago during Bilderberg 2009. So for all of those who are new to this information and don't know what Bilderberg is, or perhaps don't quite understand the significance of this meeting, I would highly suggest that you go back and listen to, or even re-listen to, some of the previous episodes of this podcast that have dealt with Bilderberg, including episode 44, Club Bilderberg, and episode 85, Bilderberg 2009. And of course to other sources of information, such as interviews that we've conducted in the past with veteran Bilderberg researchers and authors like Daniel Estulin and Jim Tucker and Tony Gosling, and of course to many of the articles that I've written on this subject in the past. But don't just take my word for it. Of course, there are many valuable sources of information out there on Bilderberg, and much of it is available for free online, so by all means feel free to begin your own research if you are new to this. But for all of those who are wondering about the significance of Bilderberg and why we should care about this elite secret meeting that takes place behind closed doors every year, well, let me put it as succinctly as I possibly can. Let's meet just a few of the characters who have attended Bilderberg meetings in recent years.
We're living through exceptionally difficult times. The financial crisis and its dramatic impact on employment and budgets, the climate crisis which threatens our very survival, a period of anxiety, uncertainty and lack of confidence. Yet these problems can be overcome by a joint effort in and between our countries. 2009 is also the first year of global governance, with the establishment of the G20 in the middle of the financial crisis.
So, again, this is at the level of global governance something which I trust is of utmost importance. And I would say that we owe this transformation, which again has been prepared. It is something which didn't come as a sharp and, I would say, unexpected event.
So in the wake of the crisis, that's probably my main message this morning, which is that a European integration has to be sped up, not slow it down, and that the lessons from this crisis must have consequences in the way the European Union, including for emerging European countries, the European Union is organized and has its own institution able to tackle, to cope with difficult situations like the one we just experienced.
So we have to shape an international order that can meet the challenges of our generation. We will be steadfast in strengthening those old alliances that have served us so well, including those who will serve by your side in Afghanistan and around the globe. As influence extends to more countries and capitals, we also have to build new partnerships and shape stronger international standards and institutions. This engagement is not an end in itself. The international order we seek is one that can resolve the challenges of our times.
Yes, every single one of those men have attended Bilderberg in recent years, including Herman van Rompuy, the new EU president, and Jean-Claude Trichet, the president of the European Central Bank, and Dominique Strauss-Kahn, the head of the IMF, and the person commonly referred to as President Barack Obama, although he would best be known as Barry Soetoro. And yes, all of them have attended, and if you want to find out about Obama's attendance of the 2008 Bilderberg, you should find out about his secret meeting with Hillary Clinton that took place there in the Bilderberg 2008 edition, which took place near Washington. And for those who are interested in exploring further about the predictions that have come out from these Bilderberg conferences based on what was talked about at the meeting, you would definitely want to begin researching into the veteran authors and researchers who I have mentioned before, like Daniel Estulin and Jim Tucker, who have proved with their inside sources inside Bilderberg that they are able to talk about what is going to happen in the coming months and even years based on the knowledge that leaks out from Bilderberg. And when you begin your research, you will undoubtedly come across the writings of Daniel Estulin, who, as I mentioned, is a veteran Bilderberg researcher and a best-selling international author who wrote the book The True Story of the Bilderberg Group, which is definitely essential reading for anyone who is interested in this topic. And it is a best-selling book that has sold 3.5 million copies around the world and is available in numerous languages. So it is highly worth getting and reading. And Daniel Estulin also has a brand new book. It's called Shadow Masters. And it also deals with the types of things that the Bilderberg operators and characters actually do. True Story of the Bilderberg Group is more about the group itself, its meeting, and how it operates. This is more about the types of operations that the Bilderberg characters actually run. So it's definitely a valuable addendum. And on that note, the appendix to the recently released Shadow Masters actually contains images and recreations of various documents that have leaked out from Bilderberg over the years that Estulin has managed to garner from his sources. So it is highly recommended that you do pick up this book, if only for the appendix itself, which is as fascinating as the book in total. But to get to the meat and potatoes of today's episode, it was my great honor to speak once again to Daniel Estulin this year, not only about his brand new book, Shadow Masters, but also about the information that he's managed to gain from his sources inside Bilderberg about the Bilderberg 2010 agenda. That's right, Daniel Estulin has done it once again. He has gotten the actual leaked agenda for this year's meeting. So without further ado, let's take a listen to my recent conversation with Daniel Estulin about the Bilderberg 2010 agenda and what will be on the table behind closed doors for this year's Bilderberg meeting.